Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Mike Francesa channel on the Bet Rivers Network on YouTube on this Tuesday morning. A reminder that we will preview the NBA playoffs with picks tomorrow. That will come your way tomorrow morning. We'll also be with you Friday morning. We'll be after Nick game number one. We'll be with you right after the game. That game is Saturday night at 6 o'clock as they open up against Detroit. Now, today, the story, though, is both obvious, predictable, but it's also a non story, except for one regard. And that is, of course, the news that has now pretty much circulated everywhere that Juan Soto commented on his early season issues at the plate, which really are non-issues when you take them apart. Soto commented that now for him, he's off to a bad start. Okay. He did homer last night. So after 16 games, and the Mets are 11-5. So really, when he was asked about his slow start for him, as of last night, he had one home run, four RBIs. After last night's game, he had two home runs, six RBIs, and a 250 batting average. Not Soto like, but he did fall into the trap because he just should have said, "We're winning. I'm going to hit." Instead, he talked about how it's different not batting in front of the best hitter in baseball, in Aaron Judge. Okay. What this shows you is the one part of this that's a story, and that is that the money has impacted Soto. Soto believes that he has a responsibility here because of that contract, a responsibility, an obligation to the fans, an obligation to the owner, an obligation to his teammates because of what he was rewarded by coming over and becoming the centerpiece of the Mets. He's a part of everything. He's a part of their team performance. He's a part of attendance. He's a part of everything. But what it shows you is that he feels that he has to have a special season, that he needs to produce what he considers a good season for him, not for somebody else, for him, because of the riches he was given. So he has let the contract, which is human nature, play into his psyche. All players are always driven by performance anxiety. Every athlete in the world is driven. Any performer, anybody who gets ratings, anybody who's in the public eye is always driven by performance and by what the performance yielded in terms of ratings, in terms of batting average, in terms of team winning, in terms of everything else. But you often don't show it. You often don't acknowledge it. He very quickly, and this was a mistake, this was a misstep, but it's not a big one. Because when you take it apart, there's no story here. Number one, the Mets are 11-5. Number two, Soto has two home runs, six RBIs, and a 250 batting average. So what? Right now, Bryce Harper has two home runs and five RBIs. Freddie Freeman has two home runs. Okay. Bobby Witt has two home runs. Devers has one home run. Maldonado has one home run. Okay. Lindor has one home run. Matt Olson has one home run. I can go down the list. Last year at this time, Judge had no numbers. Guys get off the slow starts. Is the slow start a product of him pressing because he has to live up to the contract? That's the story he bit into. He bought into. And he acknowledged, hey, I no longer sit and bat in front of the best player in baseball. We all knew that. We all knew that was going to be a change in condition for him and that he was going to have to accept more responsibility because he went from being the number two player to the number one player. So with that comes responsibility. Plus, when you sign the biggest contract in sports, there's your responsibility, there's your obligation, there's your pressure. But when you look at it, It's not a big deal. The team's 11-5. He has a 400 on base percentage. He leads the Mets in runs scored. He leads the Mets in walks. He's second by a mile in on base percentage. He has one of the top 25 on base percentages in baseball, and he hasn't even started to hit yet. Right now, he's on a pace right now for 130 runs scored and 140 walks. What, those would be bad numbers? That's the pace he's on right now. After 1/10 of the season, he has 13 runs scored and 14 walks and a 400 on base percentage. He doesn't have a 120 on base percentage or a 210 on base percentage. He's got 400 on base percentage and he hasn't hit yet. Are the power numbers down? Yeah. It's been a cold spring. He's adjusting to a new team. The guy in front of him hasn't hit. He doesn't have Judge behind him. All factors, yes. He's in a park that's not as conducive to hitting home runs. He's not going to get the cheapies he got at Yankee Stadium. And I didn't calculate how many cheapies he got last year, but every left handed hitter gets some cheapies at Yankee Stadium. So he might hit 32 homers instead of hitting what he hit last year. But the idea that sitting here with the Mets at 11-5, with him having 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and a 250 batting average and an 821 OPS, that there is some crisis with 13 runs scored, which is near the top of the league, 14 walks, which is on 140 pace, and he's got a 400 on base percentage. And what? We're going to have a crisis? This is utter nonsense. The only thing that's even a story is that he nibbled. He admitted what we already knew, and that is that he feels some pressure, some obligation, some responsibility for grabbing this enormous contract. He feels he needs to provide something special and special for him. The guy behind him couldn't be hotter. I mean, Alonso, I think, is tied with Judge and amazingly Wilmer Flores for the most RBIs in baseball. At least he was the other night. Right now, Judge has 20, Flores has 20, and Alonso has 19. Alonso has a 464 on base percentage. He's gotten off to a great start. He's hit well. He's batting well. His OPS is strong. His RBI numbers are sensational. He's done a great job so far. Okay, and Judge has already scored 13 runs. That leads the team by 3, and he hasn't started hitting yet. And he's the only guy in the Mets with an on-base percentage other than Alonso over 280, and it's 400. And he hasn't started going yet. He hasn't gotten hot yet. That's going to come. Is it going to be a different year? Yes. Is there going to be more responsibility for him in the lineup? Yes. Does he have Aaron Judge hitting behind him? No. Duh. The only thing wrong with this picture is he shouldn't have taken the bait. He did. He's human. He took the bait. He created a story in the big city. And remember, a lot of people want him to fail because of that contract, and Yankee fans love this because they're not only going to deal with every mishap he has, they also want him to put up Judge numbers. But he doesn't have to put up Judge numbers. He just has to be Soto. And that also means be Soto in the postseason. where we all know what the numbers were versus Judge. This guy's performed on the October stage. He doesn't have that Achilles heel, that vulnerability. But he's not Judge. No one ever said he was. He's not a great all-around player. He's a great offensive player. And he will do the things that he does. He will hit 30 home runs. He will hit close to 300. He will knock in 100 runs. He will score 125, 30 runs, and he'll have a 425 on base percentage. But the most important thing he has to do, as far as the owner is concerned, is he's got to lead the team to the promised land, and he's got to fill the ballpark. So this actually, from a ownership standpoint, is not a negative because it creates the buzz that they want from having Soto on the team. They want to be the story. They want the back page. They want to matter. They want to be the big team. That's why they went and got this guy. So this plays into that. They're not going to be upset by this. This is not going to hurt the team. And it's not, in the long run, going to hurt Soto either. Soto's really good at what he does. His plate discipline, his ability to distinguish pitches, stay on balance, and have good swings is why he's who he is. He'll continue to do that. And he'll continue to produce in big moments because he's done that. He's got a history that shows that. That's why he got what he got. But he showed you that, see, last year he got off fast and Judge didn't. So Soto never let anybody down last year. He rode the wave the entire year. Right now, whoa, why doesn't he have 5 home runs? Why doesn't he have 20 RBIs? Why doesn't Hey, you don't think he had 10 or 15 game spans last year where he didn't hit a homer or where he had 2 or 3 RBIs? I guarantee you he did. Because every player does. It's just that he had it at the beginning of the season after signing the biggest contract in baseball history. So everything he does is a story. And instead of saying, "We're winning, don't worry, I'm going to be fine," that would have been the road answer. He basically gave you a little look into his idea of where he is. And yes, I'm adjusting to not having the best player in baseball behind me. Anyone would adjust to that. Is it a big advantage to have Judge behind you? Was it a big advantage for Roger Maris to have Mickey Mantle behind him? I mean, hey, if you bat in front of an all-time great, no matter who it is, whether it's Ruth, whether it's Judge, whether it's name the guy, Aaron, Mays, Mantle, Williams, DiMaggio, whoever, it's a big advantage. Did he make a mistake? From a textbook standpoint, yes. Is it anything that is going to impact him or the team? Absolutely not. Is there a story in terms of his performance? Not even a little one. If he had one walk and his on base percentage was 222, 220, and he had struck out 25 times. You'd have a story. Right now, 3 for 4 and he's batting 290. One good 5 RBI day and he's right where he's supposed to be. Go down the list and look at how many guys have 2 homers and 5 or 6 RBIs right now who were guys who were gonna have 30 homers and 100 RBIs. There's a whole bunch of them, and put Soto in that same group. Plus, he's at the top of the league in walks, he's at the top of the league in runs scored, he's at the top of the league in on base percentage, and he hasn't even started hitting yet. Much ado about nothing. But from a Met ownership standpoint, they like this. Why? They want the back page. They wanna matter. They wanna be the team, which is not easy to do against the Yankees. But they wanna do that, and that's why they went out and sprung for this guy, to fill the ballpark, to create buzz. Oh, our big hitter only has 2 home runs after 15 games. Even though we're 11 and 5 with 16 games, boy, that's a big story. Really, colossal. If he had said, "You know what? I don't think I can hit without Judge." That's a little different. He didn't say that because he doesn't think that, and that's not gonna happen. He's gonna be just fine. And right now, the Mets are just fine. Now, the residual from the Masters, golf has been struggling. There's no question. The live separation has hurt golf dramatically. Also, when you time that with the loss of Tiger and the demise of Phil, golf's been looking for that star. Okay. That next star. Now, we here need an American star because I don't care how good Oberg is, he's never going to be Tiger Woods, okay? Or he's never going to be Phil Mickelson or Arnold Palmer because he's not American. Same thing with Rory. Now, Rory's popular, there's no question. I think the biggest reason why he's so popular right now is because he didn't go to live. They offered him a lot of money, he didn't go. He stayed. And he comes off as a nice guy. Although DeChambeau might differ because while everyone was throwing all the praise on Rory, they asked DeChambeau what he thought, and he said, "Don't ask me. I have no idea. He never said a word to me the entire day. Not one word." That will continue that rivalry, which is a positive, into the rest of this season. And hopefully, you know, throughout the rest of the golf year, because it's good for golf. Golf needs rivalries. If they can make something of the fact that Rory was like, "I don't wanna be like Scotty, robotic." Is that a compliment? Not really. I don't wanna be like DeChambeau either. I'd rather be somewhere in between. Alright. Golf needs to take whatever it can get right now because they can't get the sport back together. Every effort to get it back together has hurt. Now, this was the highest rated Masters since 2018. Makes sense. It was sudden death. It was dramatic. It was a roller coaster ride. He was up, he was down, he was up, he was down, he was in front, he was behind, he was in front, he was behind. It looked like he was gonna run away with it, and he hits a wedge in the water, and away we go, and misses the putt on 18, and away we go, and we get the playoff. So it was extremely dramatic. and a good day for golf, which needs it, and hopefully can build on it because, you know, you'd like to think there's a way to put this sport back together because it does miss the live guys. It would be better if those guys, I mean, listen, you can tell John Rahm finished up okay. Rahm finished up okay. He just made the cut and then he played okay on the weekend, wound up, I think, 4 under. But he hasn't been the same player. He's got little kids, so he's concentrating on his kids, which is admirable. But also, he got 600 plus $1,000,000 to go to live. Changed his changed his whole being. Obviously, the bills are paid. He doesn't have to think about anything in the rest of his life or the next generation. I mean, he got a king's ransom to go. But they need, you miss him, you miss Kepka, you miss the guys who live. They need to reunite the sport. It's important that they do that. Now, maybe they can get something going with Rory and DeChambeau. Maybe they can even get they're hoping to get a rivalry going with Scotty and Rory, but I don't think either one of them really wants to dig in on the other. It's not their personalities. They just want to play golf. They go out there, they play golf, you know, and it'll be interesting to see how the two of them perform, especially in the majors the rest of the year. Hasn't been the same year for Scheffler. I mean, he didn't have it at the Masters, and he still was 8 under, which shows you what kind of player he is. He was missing, just missing with the putter, with his irons. He was just off, and that was the difference between being 8 under and being 13 or 14 under. He never got it to where he could really attack the course, and he hasn't won yet this year after being the dominant figure for the last 2 years, going on 3 years. But the fact that you got a good Masters rating, you got an exciting tournament to build on, sets golf up well for the next couple of months, which is a positive. Because frankly, the last couple of years, while you've had the excitement provided by Scheffler, you haven't had a lot. He made the crazy run at the Olympics, but how many people were actually watching the Olympic golf? I found out about it after the fact. I wasn't even watching. But this was a step in the right direction for golf on Sunday, and hopefully something they can build on. Although it does right now seem like there's very little chance they can reunite because the PGA wants one. They want one golf body. The live guys are willing to throw their money in. They have countless amounts of cash, but they want two different golf bodies. They want the PGA and they want live. The PGA just wants the PGA. That's the stumbling block. That and how do you compensate the guys that didn't go? Or somehow penalize the guys who went, took the big money, and didn't care about the tour here. How do you make the guys who stayed and kept this tour afloat? How are they made whole? It's another big stumbling block and one that has to be dealt with. As you said, tomorrow, NBA, time for the postseason. Are the Knicks better than they were last year? Are they better equipped going into the playoffs than they were last year? We'll get into that tomorrow, but here's one thing that's obvious. They are very different than they were last year. This is a very, very different team. And that has to be acknowledged by everyone, including the head coach, because it's true. They don't have the same strength they did last year. They're not the same group. That doesn't mean it's going to be a negative, but that has to be acknowledged. They are very different. We'll get into that with everything with the NBA tomorrow. And as we said, we'll be here Friday, and then we'll be here Saturday night after the Knick game, which is a 6 o'clock Saturday night game against a Detroit team that hasn't been around in a very, very long time and is not a bad team. We'll see you later.